All right, so Terrence, I've been playing around with this for a while, and I finally got the welding down. So basically, what you need to do is you got to kind of be careful. Just let me show you what you need to do. First, let's say I have these four pieces: this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece, and they're kind of big. I put them up into the air so that I could tell if they're actually wielded or not. Because when I start, if you scroll down here in the properties, you see how we have surface here, and you could say wield, right? Right down here, this surface is just surface just for how it looks. All right, the surface, you'll stick those two surfaces together. That's one way you could do it. All right. What I found so I'm going to put this part together, that part together, that part together, and that part together. So that's this part down to here. So I clicked on the topmost part, I held down shift, and I clicked on the bottommost part. All right. And then I went ahead and clicked join surfaces. Another thing that you could possibly do is you could hold down control and click and say group, and then I can group them all together. Ooh, why not? Strange. But you could probably group them together, and I would call them, if this was going to be my car, I'd call it car. If this was going to be my weapon, I might call it weapon. Okay, so then they'll be in the same folder. Okay, so we got them all to join surfaces. What that means is that the wield is going to be automatic. Okay, so if I click on this guy here, right, and I go to move, and I grab this green arrow and I unclick it, right, and then I want to stick it on this guy, so I move, move, move. You see that little white highlight right there? That means it's now wielded. All right. So when it's here, you'll notice here on part 2, there's no wield underneath it like there is for part 3. All right, because it's not wielded to anything. But since I clicked join surfaces, and I'm also waiting for that white line is saying I'm wielding that part to the other part. And once I do that, you see this wield is attached now to part 2. I'm going to go ahead and unhook it. The wield is gone on part 2. I'm going to go ahead and connect it, and the wield is added to part 2. So now these two guys are welded together. Okay, the cylinder, let me come over here and click on it. I'm going to move it off, right? And if I click it on, that white line right there, I let go, and now my wield is added to part 3. Okay, so when you're trying to put things together, you want to make sure you have joint surfaces on all of the surfaces you're trying to connect together. And then when you do connect them together, you want to make sure that you get that white line connecting the two parts together. Okay, so when I do that, and then now I come here to test, and if you don't get that white line connecting the two parts together, then they'll just fall apart like you've noticed in your game, right? And so now that I did that, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to take a look at my part that's kind of awkward, looking like a unfinished giant ladder. And you'll see when it falls to the ground, it's not going to fall apart into pieces. Okay, so here it is, right? So it fell to the ground, and you can see if I move it around, it's all stuck together. Okay, build your car, I believe, right, or weapon, whatever it is. Just help us, right? Take up part of the task of building this game, and let's work together to put it together. So one thing that, whether that's a hover car, or whether that's going to be a ship or a weapon, let's just do that. And another thing that I want to ask you to do when you put it together is, if you're going to create a weapon, the weapon's going to be really small, right? And so you might want to start working with really small pieces when you're putting it together. But I would advise you against doing that. Don't do that. Use big pieces, right? Because once you're done, then you could take all of these pieces that we put together, right? We can click the topmost one, we can hit shift and click the bottommost one, and then from there we can go to model and we can do scale. And then if I go ahead, I can shrink it down to whatever size I want. Okay, so it's better to start big, right? Because when it's bigger, it's easier to manipulate, easier to weld the pieces together, and so on. Another thing that I want to warn you about is, let's take a look at this guy over here. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and go to model. I'm going to insert a part, cylinder. I'm going to rotate that part. No, I'm going to first move that part into the right position. So I'm trying to stick it onto this big gray block. And then I'm going to go to model, go to rotation, rotate this guy to here. Okay, and then I'm going to do join parts on the model. Okay, so these two guys, I'm going to highlight both of them. right? And then I'm going to go to model and I'm going to do join surfaces. It's already highlighted. So now if I click on my green guy and I go to model move, then I should see that white line connecting the two guys together. Okay, you see that line? But sometimes it won't connect, and the reason why is because in model, if I go to rotate and I undo this rotation 45 degrees, right, so that I can be a free rotation, now I come over here, and if I'm slightly off like that, did you see that? I moved it, I rotated it on the green axis just like 2 or 3 degrees, all right? And now if I go ahead and move it in, it will not connect. It won't give me that that white line connecting and joining the two pieces together. Do you see that? So it will only join the two pieces together if they are flat and touching each other. You know what I'm saying? If the surfaces are parallel, okay, like that, and then I go back to move, then it should give me that white line. You see that? Then it gives me the white line. And why? Because now I'm exactly parallel or perpendicular to this gray block. So just something to watch out for, because I was sitting here for about an hour and my cylinders were not connecting to the surface. They were connecting every once in a while. Like every 10 times I would do it, they would connect. But most of the time they wouldn't connect. And I was just sitting here like, what is going on? What is going on? And that was what was going on, is that they were not perpendicular to each other, meaning that their surfaces were not touched like a vehicle or a weapon, so that I could show you how to get the vehicle to be rideable.